everybody. It's Marilyn Wilson here today, one of the founding partners of Wave Group, and I've got a wonderful person with me, David Charron, the Chief Strategy Officer from Bright MLS. Welcome, David.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
As always.
Yeah.
So tell us about Bright MLS. Tell us what that whole crazy thing's all about.
Oh boy, it's been a long time in the making. What started as a great vision by the founders of MRIS, we've really seen it take shape over the last 15 years, and now have assembled 43 associations, about 9 separate MLSs, into a marketplace that's probably 40,000 square miles, serving 20 million customers, and knock on wood, facilitating about $85 billion in residential real estate transactions every year. So it's a pretty big deal.
That's an 85 with a B.
Yeah, it's 85 with a B.
That's a lot. Yeah, a lot of transactions.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
And it really is the Mid-Atlantic pretty much that's represented, right?
Yeah,
the whole area.
We're in south and southwestern Jersey, through eastern Pennsylvania, down into all of Maryland and Delaware, the Panhandle of West Virginia, Northern Virginia, and then of course the District of Columbia. So it's quite a big geography. So it's going great so far. Yeah.
And it's fun, sometimes when I talk to MLSs around the country, they tell me, oh, you can never cross state lines. You guys have crossed several state lines.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been crossing state lines for a number of years, probably a dozen years. Mm-hmm. And now we've actually really just added another 2 states in the form of Delaware, from an old MRIS perspective.
Right.
Delaware and New Jersey into it, but it's not that much more cumbersome. It really isn't. So it's like kids, I guess. You just had 2 or 3 of them. You had 2 or 3 more, right?
Just need a few more hands.
Just a little more expensive, right?
That's right. So one of the things that I just really admire what you guys did with this one is it was so transparent. A lot of times what we hear is there's sort of a few small select people get together and they kind of make a plan and then they go to the rest of the market to sort of sell the idea. This one, you kind of did it just the opposite. To me, it seemed very transparent and engaged a ton of people. Tell us how that worked.
Well, it was really born out of many years of rejection in terms of my ability and even Tom's ability to go out and solicit new markets. I mean, we've been successful at various times over the years, but Tom and I sat down a number of years ago and we were bemoaning the fact that, we were running into the same obstacles, the same objections, things like that. And so we had this idea that, well, what if we just blew ourselves up and started over? Because people don't like to give up what they've created to join something else. So we started thinking about, one of my directors, Pat Savani, said, what if someone came to us and wanted us to give up what we had to go join them? And we said, you're absolutely right. So then we socialized it with our chairs, Gene Millman and John Coyle, and then our executive committees, and then they said, well, let's take a look at this. Why would it hurt? 4 years ago, we had reconstituted MRIS in terms of our ownership and governance structure, and kind of contemporized that. Mm-hmm. We did it in a complete transparency. We asked our shareholders, please, this is what we're going to do. Please suspend your judgment. We'll come back to you in 6, 9, or 12 months when we have something to share. We did the same thing here, and so did Tom. And so we said, we're looking at merger consolidation. Give us some time. And so they said, okay. Well, we come back with this great plan, and then our shareholders and our brokers said, well, while you're at it, why don't you just invite these other contiguous markets to join as well?
Gotcha.
And that added a level of complexity to arguably an already complex issue of merging just MRIS and Trend. And sure enough, we put the feelers out and sent the invitations out, and we had about a dozen markets initially respond, and 7 actually came to the party and signed up with us in addition to MRIS and Trend. So we did it completely open. We just asked that people suspend judgment, and we came back with what we thought was a pretty compelling value proposition for all the stakeholders, brokers, agents, associations, MLS, staff, tech vendors, all for the benefit of the consumer. And so John Coyle, my chair, said, well, we got to make sure we can answer why for all of these important stakeholders, and we did. And it was probably one of the easiest decisions to arrive at once we had the solution in place, once we had all the puzzle pieces to place. Tough to execute, but it worked out. Yeah, we did it pretty well.
Absolutely, and I love the fact that you sort of had a, I don't know if it was, if you called it, but sort of a white paper that you threw out there and publicly, promoted, said, here's kind of our vision, but it's very amorphic and it's just kind of a general idea, and we want you all to come to the table and help us figure it out.
Yeah, so we invited brokers and association execs and MLS execs and key influencers in the market and say, what could we create if we could create it from whole cloth and do it from the beginning again?
Right.
And everybody put aside how great everybody is.
Right.
So MRIS was the greatest thing, Keystone MLS was the greatest thing, Coastal was the greatest thing. We all said, all right, we're all great, we got
right.
that.
We're amazing.
But when we really decided to say, well, what is it we have in common? We had so many more things in common than we had in terms of things that weren't in common. And so once we realized that we had 85 or 90% of what we did was what we all agreed on as to what any new organization should look like. The 10% really wasn't that hard. It really wasn't that tough.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was nuts.
It seems so hard before you started it, but once you really dig in, it's not as bad as it might seem.
Well, if I'd have known from the very beginning what it was going to take to put all this together, I probably would have said, I don't know if I want to do that. But we all thought that the solution might be just around the corner and just around the corner. And I guess it's like going to the gym or being on the treadmill. You can make it to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. You just keep going a little further, a little further, a little further, and we finally got to the finish line on January 1st of this year. So
how long did it take from start to finish?
The real heavy lifting was the better part of 10 months. Okay. Yeah, really 10 months of just really heavy lifting. We actually started integrating the teams in terms of discussions early on. Once we thought we had a hit on our hands, we started introducing different parts of the organizations to each other.
Okay.
And to help, one, socialize it, but again, to find out all the things that we had in common. So we'd have our compliance teams from all the different organizations come together. We'd have our ops teams, or we'd have our technical teams, our development teams, we'd have our marketing teams, and we just would have a day or two or whatever over a period of time for each of these teams to get together, and they'd walk away and, oh my God, there's a lot of things we really, and those people have a great idea over here, and these people have a great idea over here, and so we had a little bit of a head start. The big challenge for us was just getting the legal documents together.
I bet.
So one of the pieces of advice I would offer, and this arguably makes it a little bit more expensive, is to make sure you bring in your external counsel soon enough into the process so you don't get so wedded to one idea or one solution that they come in and tell you, that dog won't hunt, that's not going to work.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
But we were lucky, and we had people that were really willing. They stayed focused on this, and at the end of the day, I went back to my board on several occasions. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do it? And every time they'd say, get back in there, David, let's
Awesome.
go. Yeah.
So when you talked about, which I love the fact that you sort of looked at each constituency and said, how do we solve it? What are the benefits when you kind of walk around for brokers and agents and shareholders, and how does it work for everyone?
Well, most of the solutions out there previous to this point have generally not brought everybody under the tent, under the same tent.
Okay.
So the first thing that we discussed was, well, should this be a broker-owned solution? And the brokers, after speaking with the brokers, they didn't really want ownership. They wanted control and influence.
Okay.
So from an association perspective, they were used to managing and owning both of these previous entities, or actually all the entities that ultimately joined. What was different was the for-profit, not-for-profit. Where was the money flowing?
Interesting. Okay.
And so we determined early on that we needed to be a for-profit company for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is innovation, being able to provide extraordinary service, being able to move pieces around easily whenever the need hit, and assuming that we're profitable, which we have every intent to be, then the shareholders participate in that success financially, in much the same way MRIS shareholders did previously. So the association benefits we thought were pretty good. The broker benefits were obviously obliterating the boundaries and allowing for those markets that do overlap to break that down so that there are fewer feeds. In the case of Home Sale Home Services based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I met with Sandra Trocoli, their IT director, yesterday, and she says, David, I'm moving from 5 MLSs to 1. This is the greatest thing in the world. Now for Long and Foster, we're moving from 33 to 27, but it's headed in the right direction.
Right. So they want you to
they're saying now can you do this a little bit better? So making it easier for brokers to have access to larger amounts of information is a great thing. For the smaller broker, the advantage to the smaller broker is in the product suite that we are going to be able to offer, the solutions that we're going to be able to offer to them. It's not going to cost them any more than it does. And so the DC broker says, well, what do I care? I don't care what's going on in Philadelphia. Well, if you don't care, then if we can do it, is that a problem for you? And it wasn't a problem.
Gotcha.
For the agent, it was far better product at a very reasonable price. And so we're working toward some of us have to move down, some of us are going to move up just a little bit in terms of price over a period of time, but we're going to be able to give them much better product solution from a staff perspective. Staff have people now that they can relate to. They're not just islands. There's more people. There's more opportunity for growth. And so then also, it's all for the benefit of the consumer. And so Tom put this visual together early on, and it was a view from space, from the International Space Station at night of the East Coast. And there's no boundaries there. There are no boundaries. You just see this continuous stream of light. And once everybody saw that, they went, oh, I get it. I get this. This is absolutely right. So the consumer doesn't see any of these boundaries. Why do we?
So you started with basically what does our economy look like in this whole bandwidth of area? How do we serve it?
There's a continuous stream that is very densely populated along the Mid-Atlantic. So yeah, and we expect to grow. We now have markets that are contiguous to our new Bright market that are asking questions. They're curious. No one has said no, absolutely not. Some have said no, not right now. But we expect that increasingly we'll see some new markets join us, such that by this time next year we'll probably have 2 or 3 more markets that have joined us. We surely hope.
And I would guess that the listing exposure now with that many members in one place is significantly better for everyone.
Well, sure, yeah. And we're, one of our basic services is going to be the broker public portal that we're going to include in there. So we're going to actually launch that in advance of the entire market consolidation so that people can begin to enjoy that. The consumers surely will, the agents surely will. So the broker public portal, the Remind product, which is a data visualization initiative that we think has got enormous potential for us. And actually, I think that whole big data and predictive modeling and things like that is going to absolutely change what we used to know as MLS. It's going to change it completely. So there's a lot of new and different stuff that we're going to be rolling out.
And now, have you built it on the RESO data standard? So
we sure have.
Okay.
We are I guess platinum certified. We're already there, and we feel really good about that. We feel like we've actually built extensions to that go beyond the RESO certification. So we have been longtime supporters of RESO. We'll continue to be, and whether or not we continue to outpace them, I don't know. It's fine with me. We're running right along with them. It's really been a good and Jeremy and his team have done just a great job. Art. Rebecca, they've done just a super job of pulling that together for the benefit of all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, wonderful. So it's a great story.
Life's perfect, right?
Life is amazing.
Yeah.
So any other words of advice for people that have said, wow, we want to do that too? We love the transparent approach. We love the idea of sort of everybody laying down their current structure and thinking about recreating. Any thoughts for people if they want to start that way? What should they do to think about that?
Well, you got to take the emotion out of this completely, and you got to do what's best for the business. If you have the least bit of concern about where you fit in the equation, that's probably going to be enough to derail it. And so, what a number of us did that were potentially in positions to have different jobs or conceivably no jobs, is if we do the right thing here, the future will take care of itself. As it turns out, I think it's worked out really well for both our organizations, MRIS and Trend, and the 7 other newly joining organizations of it. So I think it's do the right thing for the business. People will appreciate that. Suspend your judgment. Go into this thing. If you're going to do it in a transparent fashion, suspend it. Don't be making judgments along the way.
Gotcha. Anything's possible.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've talked about before is that if we really thought that broker profitability and agent relevance was going to progress and they were going to survive and thrive in the days ahead, then we probably shouldn't do anything.
Right.
If we thought the consumer's need for transparency was going to diminish, we probably shouldn't do anything. If we thought this overlapping market disorder was really kind of a non-issue, we should probably not do anything. I will tell you, though, that one of the ways, I think the economy masks some fundamental flaws in each of our businesses.
Yeah.
And so when this business heads south, and it will at some point, it'll drop. Maybe it'll dolphin, maybe it'll dive. I don't know what it's going to do. But people will start looking around for the efficiencies, and our customers will. So, if our business is healthy, but our customers are in the tank, we probably have done the wrong thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see where Bright MLS goes from here.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Marilyn. Good luck. And thank you for helping the industry.
Absolutely.
You bet. Yeah.
Thank you.